So when you're working with clients and you've worked with people, you've worked with NBA players, you've worked with busy tech execs, you've worked with just everyday people, how do you tell them to use this? And I remember at one point you did like a ultra processed food challenge where you challenged all these people you work with, like, don't eat any ultra processed food. And you got some really interesting results. So tell me what that is like and what you tell people to actually do.
Yeah, so I have a challenge. I call it like the 30-day minimally processed food challenge, which basically walks you through a new lesson every day on increasing your awareness around food processing, and then also how do you do this. One of the things that I do when I'm working with people in this is, for the most part, everybody is in the I need to control the amount of calories that I'm consuming business. There are very few people that need more calories. It's more athletes, younger, student athletes or college athletes, like they need to consume more calories. Everybody else is, how do I control or hold back calorie consumption, right? And except for maybe a guy like you. And so for those, for us mere mortals who are looking to not overconsume, minimally processed foods becomes the battle cry because it allows you to eat more while maintaining that calorie consumption. And then we layer in ultra processed foods, which I consider convenience foods, to help us marry our nutrition goals with our lifestyles. You gave a great example of when you're on a plane, that's the way to go. One of the things, like the office with the company that I work for is in Rhode Island. And so when I travel down there, I will do prepackaged overnight oats, which has the protein, carbohydrate, like everything just in there. And I can make 3 and I throw it in my bag and I know it can sit in the refrigerator at the hotel and it's breakfast taken care of. And so it's use it for convenience so you can maintain your plan, but don't rely on it as the primary source of nutrition. Because I really find traveling, is extremely difficult because fruit and vegetable consumption is hard, and everything has salt and sugar. Even when you go out to eat, and you're like, this salad should have no business being 1,200 calories.
Yeah, dude.
And it's so, especially restaurants that will have the calorie, counts there.
Counts, yeah.
And you're like, man, I can't get anything for 500 calories. Or I could go into my kitchen and I could make a plate of food that you would look at and be like, I am never going to finish this, that has 500 calories.
Totally.
That really for me is the challenge between minimally processed and then processed or ultra processed in your everyday life.
So when I was writing my book, Scarcity Brain, we talked about this a lot. And you had a really interesting and I think important point where, and this came up in these New York Times pieces, that the food industry gets so much crap for making food that tastes good. And you were kind of like, well, what is their job? Should they all of a sudden go, oh, you know what? You're right. We're going to make you a shittier version of Doritos. Here's these bad tasting Doritos. Please enjoy your food. You've got what you asked for. Like, no.
And by the way, they're more expensive.
Yeah. We made them in every employee, made them in their kitchen. And how do you navigate that?
So like I said, I don't have it, and you re-articulated it from the conversation we had however many years ago. I don't really find the food industry at fault as for-profit businesses making food more tasty, right? Like I don't find the fault in that, but I think it's a behavior challenge for us because I don't think people have ever seen food companies as organizations doing something other than providing things to, nourish your body. Like all of a sudden it's like you have to be concerned. Mm-hmm. And there's so much marketing around food. And I think we need to be better advocates for ourselves. And I find that it's the taste part that people struggle with the most.
Yeah.
Because ultra processed foods are so good. And when you go out to eat, the food is so good because the amount of butter and salt that is used in a restaurant is mind-blowing.
Right.
No one's using 2 tablespoons or 2 teaspoons of olive oil to cover your broccoli if you got it at a restaurant. And so the food just tastes so good. And I think one of the best things that I ever did was went on a very low sodium diet. And so I was consuming about 750 milligrams of sodium per day.
And just for context, what does the average American probably take in?
3,600.
Yeah.
And so I was at 750, right? So this is half the American Heart Association recommendation for someone with heart disease. So 1,500 is their recommended level, which people think is crazy, right? 2,500 is the level for normal humans. And so I was at around 750, which is basically just what you're getting from minimally processed foods that you're consuming. And you end up using a lot of hot sauce. But what it does is it takes several weeks. The food tastes gross because salt is delicious. But it takes several weeks, and then your taste buds start to change. And how you enjoy food starts to change. And that's one of the biggest switches that people get if you can stay away from the regular, unregulated consumption of ultra-processed foods and focus more on minimally processed foods. For a while, it just doesn't taste as good. Yeah. But once you give it some more time, then all of a sudden it does taste good. Like blueberries taste delicious. But if you're used to blue raspberry flavor, it's not going to. And so you have to give your body a little bit of time to adjust. And if you can get through that weaning off period, for lack of a better phrase, it really opens up a lot of different options for enjoying food. And I think one of the biggest things that people run into at first is minimally processed foods just don't taste as good.
Yeah.
I mean, you get a protein shake that tastes like Fruity Pebbles. That's crazy,
yeah,
right? And
totally.
it's not like when we were kids and it was protein powder, it tastes like chicken feet, but you're just choking it down because it was protein. Like nowadays, it's unbelievable, the flavoring. And I think one of the biggest things that people can do just as a palate reset, if they're having trouble, with minimally processed foods and ultra-processed foods, is really weaning off ultra-processed foods, focusing on these minimally processed foods, herbs, spices, not too much salt, and you give your palate a time to adjust. And then that food becomes much more enjoyable. That food becomes the preferred food. And you can then use ultra-processed foods to support the flexibility, the portability, and the shelf life that you need in your day-to-day life. And I've found that to be a really winning formula for a lot of people.
Yeah, I've noticed this myself. Like if I'm a big diet soda guy, but if I go off diet soda for a month, the first time I have a diet soda again, I'm like, oh my God, this is so sweet. Like it's almost tastes
a lot, right?
It's a lot.
Yeah.
But then you have another one and then you adjust. And then when you try to get off it, nothing tastes sweet for a while. It's like your palate really does sort of adjust to how, I guess I'll use the word intense of a flavor you're giving it. But to your point, when you get off that, nothing really tastes good for a while. But if you can kind of sit with that, just being like, all right, my meals are going to be boring for whatever it is, 2, 3, 4 weeks. Then all of a sudden, this health food that you once thought was awful, you're like, oh, this is actually pretty good. And if you can keep that up, then it becomes so much easier. But you can't get there without kind of going through the suck for a few weeks.
Yep, exactly. This is something with children, like with my kids, which range 11 to almost 18. I'm always talking to them about this. They love to give me the hard time. Like, oh, Dad, these peppers are amazing. They taste so good. I'm like, yeah. Like they're always making fun of me. But if you can give yourself that time, like if you ever want to have just like a chorus of people to give you a hard time constantly, you should have teenagers. If you could get through that, it makes all the difference.
Totally.
Just have to wean off that intensity of flavor is a great description.
Yeah. I have 2 final questions. First, what is your favorite ultra-processed food? This is like your death row meal. The warden comes in. He's like, well, Dr. Mike, you got 8 more hours of life. We've sentenced you to death for telling us to stop eating Domino's pizza. What is your final meal?
Man. Oh, boy. I don't even know if it would be an ultra-processed food. I mean, my final meal...
Oh, come on.
It would probably be brisket, if I'm being honest.
Awesome.
It would be like a Texas smoked brisket, which you could technically make at your house. So it's not,
but with more than 750 milligrams of salt.
Well salted.
Yeah,
Yes,
you're like,
yeah, yeah.
we're going 7,500 milligrams of salt on this bad boy. Just a salt crusting. Send me away. That might kill you before the electric chair, man.
Yes. Yeah. I mean, I would say like day to day in my practical life, ready to drink protein shakes.
Okay.
So nowadays you can get these ultra filtered milk.
Yeah.
Protein shakes.
Like Fairlife and...
Yeah, Fairlife, Nuri. Nuri is my favorite.
Nuri's
30 grams
good.
of protein. It's in like one of those little
Shout out
cans.
to Nuri. Shout out to Nuri. Costco. It's like $20 for like 12 or 15 of them, and they're
yes.
good.
So I'm usually on my Kim, like, look, we can't do the ready to drink protein shakes because, like they're not cheap and these kids like just nonstop at and then I was looking at them, I'm like, well, actually, I'm like at Costco, I'm like, they're pretty cheap. They're like $1.50 a piece, maybe, when you look at it, and I'm like, all right, go for it. So yeah, like that's probably my favorite. That's my ultimate ultra processed is the Nuris for sure.
Day to day.